Western intelligence has again suggested Russian troops lack resources and morale for a new offensive in the east. This comes after footage was released that appears to show Russian prisoners being recruited from jail to fight in Ukraine. Joining us now is Mark Cancian, Senior Advisor at Washington's Center for Strategic and International Studies, and he's also a former US Marine Colonel. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. If Russia is recruiting serving prisoners, what does that tell us about the state of its forces in Ukraine?
Well, Russia is clearly scraping the bottom of the barrel. Their problem is that their military was never very large. This is not the military of the Soviet Union with 3.5 million troops. It was quite small, 900,000 with an army of maybe 280,000, much smaller than the United States. Further, they've been trying to fight this war as a special military operation without instituting mobilization. So they've been low on personnel throughout the entire war. They've offered a lot of incentives. They've been trying to get people to volunteer, trying to get conscripts to volunteer to go into Ukraine. This is another step in their really scramble to find enough people to fill their ranks.
And how much of a blow has this past week been for Russia's efforts in Ukraine? Not a very good week, certainly for Vladimir Putin.
Well, it's been a very bad week. For the last 4 months, the Russians have been chewing away in the east, in the Donbass. They captured some territory, but at very high cost. And now they've lost that and more in a week. And they've also shown that their forces can be quite weak. So this has been a very bad week for the Russians.
So what form could Russia's next move take?
Well, there are two likely scenarios and two very unlikely scenarios. The likely scenarios is first, the Russians hunker down, that they continue what they're doing, but just try to dig in and hold on to what they already have. They don't have the military capability to launch any further offensives. Another possibility is that they declare mobilization. There's been talk about that since the very beginning. It would be politically very difficult, but they're desperate for personnel and additional resources. The two unlikely scenarios are, one, the use of nuclear weapons because of the potential escalation, and also a peace deal, unfortunately, because there's no overlap between the political positions of the two parties.
So far too early to say this is perhaps the beginning of the end of the war?
It is too early. It looks like the Ukrainians might have culminated. They have not made the big movements in the last couple of days that they did earlier on. Still, it's a very good sign. The Ukrainians show that they can conduct large counteroffensives. There have been questions whether they had the skilled to do that. They clearly do have those skills, and they're continuing to attack in the north and in the south. The other thing that helps is that this encourages both the Ukrainian people, who are facing a long war, and I think the West, which now sees that victory is possible, even if it does take months to actually accomplish.
And so focusing finally on the very near future, how important are the next few weeks?
Well, next few weeks we're going to see whether the Ukrainians can sustain this offensive, whether they can continue to take ground, or whether now that the Russians have dug in and moved up more forces, it's going to be slow. I think it's unlikely that the war is going to end early, but the possibility of a successful outcome, I think, is now much more likely.
Mark Cancian from the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much.